Hey, just want to let you know, if you're interested in audio-only versions of the podcast, you can now find Hammered on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for Hammered in the search results, and you should find us probably at the top of the list. Thanks a lot for listening.
You ever go shooting through a window, and you just get someone directly in the face?
Without even knowing they're behind the window?
Oh, yeah.
It is incredible.
It's
almost like, I don't deserve this kill, but I will take it anyway, and then I'll go in chat and type GN because you're bad, because I totally expected you to be behind the window.
GN, easy.
Like, you gotta hit him with the GNs, the easies. That's not even a question. All you have to do is just go into chat and just type G. I don't even go for GN. I just go for GG, right?
See, like every time my toxic ass friends type goodnight, no one on the other team says anything. But as soon as I say something, it's always like, okay, asshole. We didn't have to go there, but you did. It's like that Eager. It's like the Pokemon Eager Raptor sketch.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we didn't have to.
You could have just walked away, but you didn't.
In my case, it turns into, like, God, I really liked your YouTube content, but you're a toxic butthole in real life. Oh my God. I don't like you anymore.
Thanks for confirming that you're just a giant asshole, Greg.
Oh my God.
You didn't already know that? Do you watch my content?
Like, excuse you.
Like,
the only reason you like me is because I have a voice I can manipulate a little bit. There's a reason I don't make gameplay-related videos. Is because I get so hyped up and so toxic by the end of the play session. Like, so many of my friends from like the past 2 nights can tell you.
I thought it was because it took you 9 hours to get out of silver last season.
It did. It took a long time to get out of silver.
I went from
Ember Rising was hell for me.
Oh no, this season was bad. I started out in silver 2 because my stack threw constantly for no reason, and then and I was like, okay, I've done this before. I'll just gun my way out. I don't have to, think about it. I'll just solo queue a couple of games. Which is always like the big gamble, because when you're losing and gaining 100 elo that early, if you pop off and you win, that's great. But if you pop off and you still don't win, then you lose like 100 elo each game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, then you're just fucked.
So then I went from silver 2 to silver 4. And somehow we've managed to go from silver 4 up to plat 3, but that was a long, arduous journey. It was pretty bad.
I'm still stuck in higher tier gold. I haven't made plat yet. I haven't been able to break the threshold.
Gold hell is real.
Yeah,
it's real.
I keep on saying there's no elo hell in Siege, which is mostly just due to, one, how you play your solo game, which is typically not by fragging your way through stuff. It's kind of being like, well, how can I effectively 1v5 this? Or it's being in a really good stack and kind of carrying your way up, or being the carry when you have team comms going. So I keep going, there is no elo hell, and then there's this season, and there's Ember Rise, and I'm just going, I'm getting carried to plat. I don't care. Just give me the charm, and I'll figure it out later.
It's always funny because it's like I have, like, most of the people in my stack have all hit plat 1 at least once. Most of them are plat 2s. But when you're just within the elo threshold of 1,000, where it's like you're gold 2 and you're queuing up with plat 2, you still have to play just as well as the plat 2s in your stack are doing.
Yeah,
and you lose just as much for losing that particular game. So it's like gold 2 elo playing against like mid plat, and it's like, oh yeah, this isn't I'm not in Kansas anymore. I can't.
It's one of those scenarios.
I can't just Call of Duty my way out of this. I actually have to like play the game properly. Shit.
Oh yeah.
And then you get stuck on East Coast servers where it's apparently just full of hackers, which I haven't had a problem with because everyone queues with me because I'm Scus. So everyone wants to come over here because there's, it's less full of people in general, which means less chance to get someone who's hacking or lobby freezing or something. So we'll all queue with me. And then it turns out the problem wasn't the fact that there were hackers infesting the lobby. The problem is just me. I end up being the handicap 9 times out of 10. So I put something up on Twitter last night going, okay, we went 1 and 3. The game where we won, I had 8 kills. The other 3 games, I went like 2 and 8, stuck on hard support. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. So I just played nothing but casual for about 2 hours after that and played nothing but Zofia Visual, just trying to work on the aim. I actually even switched over to 4-3 aspect because I'm just like, screw it. Give me all the advantages. I just want to frag. I'm so done.
That's disgusting.
I can't do that.
Honestly.
I was on 1610 for about a year, and now I'm like, let's try this and see what happens. So
1610.
I've been playing on 16.9 like since the game came out, and I'd have to like spend a week in Kovacs just doing nothing but playing on that ratio before I got used to it.
I haven't done anything in aim training aside from what is present within the game itself. So if I wanted to warm up for CS, I would just play deathmatch for a couple, like an hour and a half before I tried ranked.
Aim training helps me out in like every game except Siege.
There's only really one aim training software you need, and that's FPOSU.
FPOSU.
Yes.
Is that the rhythm game?
So
OSU.
it's OSU, except it's all mouse controlled. And well, OSU's you're normally mouse controlled, but it's basically instead of having a cursor, you have a crosshair, and you use a gun to shoot them.
Oh.
So it's just OSU with a gun, basically.
Is it just like a mod you can get for it, or an overlay?
It's a mod for an open source version of OSU. It's not supported anymore. It's really old, so it's like very buggy. But it's great aim training if you need it.
I'll think about that.
I think
I just don't like it's not what aim trainer works best for Siege.
All of the songs are weeaboo though. Like all
super
of the
weeb.
songs. Yeah.
Weeb soundtrack.
I can't download other charts.
It's like I can't do it.
Oh no, please. God,
dude, I don't know if you've like
and it's not like cool weeb. It's not like Naruto opening weeb music. It's like
you've been knee deep in weeb music for a week, kind of weeb music.
Yeah.
God, no, please.
It's
this episode of Hammered is brought to you by Weeb Osu music or something. I don't know.
This episode of Hammered is actually brought to you by Era Eternity.
They wanted to come back to Siege. And then immediately getting told
Can I do my ad read?
Yes. You have an ad read?
Yes.
Go for it.
This episode of the Hammered Podcast is brought to you by Era Eternity, who have graciously agreed to pay us the same salary they paid the Rainbow Six team.
Brought to you by G Fuel.
Oh my god.
Hey man, maybe they'll send me a t-shirt.
Woo! That'll be the day! I made so much money! Oh, dear man. Lord. I saw the tweet thinking it was a parody account. I didn't know it was real until it hit the main sub. I was like, oh my god.
I think the are we allowed to say the C word?
Yeah.
I think the Rona is just like infecting everyone's cognitive functioning as well. Like it's hitting all of it's hitting a lot of the esports teams. It's hitting a lot of sports, like traditional sports teams. All across the board.
Did you see like NASCAR goes virtual for like 2 weeks and already drivers are having heated gaming moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Formula One too. Formula One went virtual too. All the motorsports.
There's already a NASCAR driver who just dropped hard R on stream.
He's already done. The clip is up. The clip is up, dude.
Like fucking Slasher just like tweeted that out, and I was just like, "Are you serious?"
Oh god, I can make so many jokes about that I won't.
It's really surprising too, because nowhere in NASCAR is there a bridge that you could have a heating gaming moment near, right?
Exactly.
Like at least,
right. That's not.
They just completely let themselves go because they're not on their normal broadcast. They're like, nah, it's fine.
Like,
it's what they usually say when they're in the car. It's just not. It's just not hot mic'd.
It's a good point. The only time it's ever hot mic is when they're like talking to their crew chief for like a couple of seconds.
Right. And then when it goes, and then that's the thing, because like it goes through post production. It goes through the like that when a moment like that happens, it only goes live because somebody in the booth had a mic on when it's not supposed to be on.
Right.
So
the question I have is, when you're testing out whether or not people can hear you, why is your first thought to say the N-word? Right? It's like, hey guys, hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And then just drop the slur. Right? Like, what?
Typically, when I worked at a news station, to finish up my internship in college, we would all test out the mics, obviously, like before we started, and people would say whatever the hell they wanted, but we wouldn't do the mic check on air. Like, not advisable.
Do it before.
Not advisable.
Like just a 30-second thing, just for the gain level, and then you're fine. But do it before broadcast starts.
There's a reason we shut off the mic during the commercial break.
Like, it's probably better if you just inhale the microphone as opposed to say anything in a check like that.
Because if somebody if somebody at the desk says a wordy dirt on air, I get fired, and then they get fired, and it's just not pleasant for anybody.
No,
you know.
Oh,
that's why I'm always a little concerned about when we do Challenger League. We do interviews for if a team won map 2, because we do 2 maps that are both teams playing each other in 2 consecutive games. And then if a team wins on one of the maps as opposed to it tying, then we do an interview. And every time we do that, it's always me and a co-caster. It's been Jesse these past 2 weeks. But then our producer will go and pull a member of the winning team into the same call that we're in. And I presume do like a very brief mic check or something. Or the first time we ever hear their voice is when the interview begins. And I'm always concerned it's going to like blow someone's ears out, or that, you know, they might say something without meaning to, without realizing they're actually live on broadcast talking to my co-caster doing the interview. So it makes me worried that something will happen.
You're going to get like, fuck you, San Diego'd.
No, I'm cool with that. That's fine.
Like,
actually, I think we might have to cut back on cursing because it's technically an ESL broadcast, but
I mean, you can't.
Okay.
You can't say the fun words, which are
that's the only thing. That's the only thing about casting.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you don't say what you would say in a watch party at the Invitational, or what I said many, many times at the Invitational, which was "What the fuck?" And I can't. I'm not allowed to let out my.
It's so funny
energy.
because it lands. You can sometimes hear like the crowd hot micing some nasty phrases.
Yeah, you can. I think we had one holy shit Chan, one that entire weekend, and we had my group of friends on one side of the arena, another group of friends on the other side of the arena. So one group would start something, the other one would catch on, and then the whole arena would start doing it. So we did that for like a couple of wrestling chants, but we only ever did one that had a curse word in it, and I don't think they caught on to it. I don't even remember where it happened. Like, I know we did it after some whack clutch, but I just don't know where.
CDL doesn't give a frick.
I would be surprised if CDL has a producer that knows how to stop a hot mic.
It's like the WWE esports at this point. It's actually just insanity. Or like
I love watching the CDL because the CDL just like from week to week varies so wildly in quality. It's insane.
The games themselves are boring to watch for me.
For those who don't know, CDL is COD.
Yeah.
Yes.
COD esports.
It's the COD esports franchise league, right?
Which is kind of
their attempt to franchise it, which,
and so
it's debatable how well it's doing or not. I guess.
Like, the entire system is set up just in a fucking stupid way, but the events themselves are absolutely insane.
Oh my gosh, the production quality is off the
because
chain.
They'll do like, I remember I watched the first one, and
me too.
You know, honestly, I can think of no better place to start your almost $1 billion esports league than a 500-person arena in Minnesota.
Kind of a weird spot.
Yeah, I mean,
like, how many other cool like teams do you have from different cities? Don't you have a London team?
They have like an LA team.
They have LA,
yeah.
Dallas.
Optic Gaming is in LA.
Dallas,
Atlanta has FaZe.
Atlanta.
New York. Right? They have all these teams.
No, let's do Minnesota.
Maybe get a DC. Maybe get a DC team, and I'll if they get a DC team, I'll probably watch more. But I said the same thing for Overwatch, and I don't really care about Overwatch. So
yeah,
right. And then they have like live music in the middle of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be watching COD, and all of a sudden, some like
it's weird,
like B-list rapper or DJ will come out and play like a 15 to 20 minute set.
It's not even like one song like as a transition thing either. It is a full-on thing. Yeah.
It's a set. And
they'll pick like their top 3 tracks from their SoundCloud and then just perform it on stage.
And there's not a lot of people in these audiences, right?
Yeah.
So when you go there, I remember the Minnesota Rocker one. It was like 15 people up at the front of the stage and everyone else was back getting snacks.
That sounds about right.
It was really painful. I kind of feel bad for the performers doing that one. Like, even though I didn't know who
they got a fat check for it, probably.
They probably did,
yeah.
Yeah. But, oh my god, that'd be just the most awkward thing they've ever done.
And then they're all exclusively streamed on YouTube, which is...
weird.
Yeah. Because YouTube bought their exclusivity for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For like $165 million.
It was a massive deal, too. Yeah.
Of money.
It was a lot of money, and now they're getting like, what? 20K?
Opening day was pretty a lot bigger than I thought it was gonna be, but it just kind of tapered off.
Yeah,
after a bit.
Well, I mean, you can get like what? You can get like 200,000 viewers on Twitch, or you can get like 30,000 viewers on YouTube, or you can get all 7 people on Mixer. Right? It's sort of.
You assume there's 7 people on Mixer that aren't Shroud Ninja viewers.
There's trade-offs to all of this.
2 of them are bots. Okay, so technically it's
correct.
5 viewers, and one of those viewers.
Nightbot works on Mixer, so you're right about that one. Or it's Moobot, whichever one.
Discord.
Oh hey. Guys, they're
Uptime.
also streaming on Facebook. Excuse you. They have all of the boomers who use Facebook
I'm sorry
streaming.
that I forgot about fb.gg. The home of disguised toast and no one else who matters.
The home of disguised toast and basically homeless now.
Basically homeless streams on Facebook?
Basically Homeless did a thing where he was like, hey, big announcement, went live with a Twitch stream for 2 minutes where he said, I'm moving to Facebook. And then he moved to Facebook. He gets about 30 viewers on Facebook. 30 viewers on Facebook. How many?
Why?
He passed 1 million subs? 30 viewers on Facebook.
Facebook has literally 1 billion users.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, if it works out, Facebook is a great platform to monetize on, but it's just like
if you got the users,
it's so much more difficult. It's so much more difficult to get people to follow you there, I think. Like Facebook is like meme pages and like mostly reshared content.
I mean, let's
from
be
other
honest
people
here.
that they made.
Who fucking knew that, like, the only reason that I knew that Facebook had a gaming section was because once I got into a ranked game with fucking Nukem Dukem, which is a name that Gregor hasn't heard in like 2 years, and Jacob has no idea who it is.
I'm trying to figure it out.
I got into a ranked game with
Jacob
Nukem
doesn't know
Dukem.
who Nukem Dukem is?
I came in year 3, season 1, so if I'm missing...
Oh my gosh.
No. That's how long that he hasn't mattered.
Wow, that's
all right. Regale me.
That's tough.
Nukem Dukem would, like... He was the first big person to get, like, basically demolished by Ubisoft.
Okay.
Or what he would do, basically, is he would, like... go to recording events, record, and then just play that on his Twitch stream 24 hours a day for the next like 2 weeks.
Interesting. He would just like pull the video back up and just play whatever he got from the event and just let it roll.
Yep.
Huh.
And
this was very early Siege stuff.
Yeah. And then as well, he
was a big metadata guy.
Yeah, he released a ton of leaks.
He was very good at figuring out like what gamed the YouTube algorithm, and he would just like blood from a stone, like just squeeze out like every little bit of ad revenue he could, like from the algorithm, because he had like, you know.
We're saying everything in past tense, so I'm assuming he doesn't do it anymore.
He still makes YouTube content. He just doesn't really do Siege anymore, as far as I know.
Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people doing nothing on YouTube except trying to manipulate the algorithm for, you know, everything that it can give them. Which is kind of the same reason why like channels like Ryan Toy Reviews exist, because they would just get pushed to like the front of the YouTube Kids app kind of thing. But I haven't heard of anyone doing it for like in the Siege scene, like specifically.
He was often the target of a lot of Reddit vitriol over his methods, and I made one video when I first got into when I was first getting into Siege YouTube, basically like looking at the situation and being like, okay, like there's a lot of things that you could get on this guy about, but really, like this, I forget half of what it was even about. I'd have to go back and watch the video again.
Weird.
But I ran into him in the airport in Montreal when I went there a couple of years ago, and it was kind of funny because like I saw a guy with like a 6 logo on their jacket, and I was like, oh, I know why they're here now, you know, for the same thing that I am, and I had no idea that this guy was Nukem. Like the connection didn't get made until we all got through the customs, and then I saw him from a little bit closer, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Nukem. I was like, hey, Nukem. And he was like, oh, what's up, man? And then we just kind of shot the shit on the way back from the airport into the city proper.
Yeah.
Shared a drink with him at the hotel bar, him and Get Flanked. It's interesting guy. I never got like a bad vibe from him. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't have to be like I guess an asshat in order to like to still do what he did on the platform. I guess you could still be a nice guy and still get away with stuff like that. Wait, was this like, I remember you telling a story, I think you went to an invitational like either I think it was 2018 or last year. Yeah, it's the same one where you were like you were in a car with a couple of notable people and they're all talking about, oh, this team can like, you know, has this storyline, they got to make this comeback, it means this much, and you just
I had no idea what the hell anyone was talking about. even a little bit. They were like evil geniuses, and like I knew evil geniuses from StarCraft 2. You know, like my knowledge of esports was completely like a little bit from CS, maybe from like the couple matches that I watched, and I one of my best friends who's a mod in my channel, who just like mods all of my streams nowadays. He was really into CS:GO esports, and he knew like all the names, and they had like the pick'em trophies they did for the coins.
Yeah,
like kind of like sports betting, you know, just for CS:GO, and he'd always get like really high scores on all of that. But I didn't have a lick of any idea of what was going on when I went there.
Oh yeah,
like.
But this was 2 years ago when you were still doing. I mean, you weren't brand new to the YouTube stuff, because there are some videos that can go back about that far.
Mm.
Like I think the one what was the one? I went back and rewatched the old Your Rank Doesn't Matter one to see if it's still kind of held up, and it really does. But that was right around like March of 2 years ago or something. So
yeah, that one. There's like different arcs to the whole YouTube shtick with what I've been doing over the past 3.5-4 years, because it starts out with like War Thunder and World of Warships, which wasn't making any money. That was just a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to college, and when I was in college, I was initially an art student, but I was a digital filmmaking major with an art minor, And then
so you were prepared right out of college to go directly into a field where you were unemployed, doing nothing in your actual field for a good 10 years. I feel you.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
As someone getting a journalism degree, that hits home.
I considered that too. And I went into the communications field, and it's technically not really the communications is what the guy does on the cell phone tower, technically, but everyone just colloquially calls it communications. But I was interested in studying communication and new media because it's like a Swiss Army knife kind of degree, or at least that's the way they sold it to me at the time, right?
Right.
Right.
Oh, you got fooled. Oh.
And then but I was lucky enough to do my homework pretty well when I was in class, and it was just all, after a while I realized that like there's a method to this, right? It's just targeted marketing. That's all really YouTube is. You find like a set of keywords, and then you make a compelling piece of content on it, and if then people keep clicking on it, then the algorithm's just going to drive it into traffic. So the Siege video actually came out, I guess, yeah, it was February 2017. Intermixed with all this War Thunder and World of Warship stuff that was completely unrelated to Siege, right?
Right.
Totally out of... The only reason that I even got into Siege was because, like, me and my buddies played CSGO, and it was like a logical kind of overlap, right? 5v5 bomb mode based, one life kind of FPS game.
I remember when Siege was first coming out, I was playing a lot of like Titanfall, and my friends played a lot of CS, and so the game where we found common ground of like my ridiculous need to have like crazy shit happen all the time, and their obsession with hitting the one taps was Siege.
Yeah.
Right? And so everyone was sort of just like, this is sort of the meeting house of like, you've got the Overwatch people here for their hero shit, you've got the CS people here for their fucking like
competitive shooter,
5v5 tactical shooter with defusing bombs. You've got the Call of Duty people here for basically search and destroy shenanigans, right? So it's like
it hit a lot of different markets, very well, and it offered a lot of interesting and new things to the FPS genre that weren't really being done before. Also, it had a overwhelming overlap with like with the tactical like gun nerd kind of community. That's still there. Not really as pronounced as it used to be because of maybe some of the character designs we've been getting lately,
which have kind of turned some people off.
Yeah, which I don't think are a bad thing. But like the YouTubers that I was subscribed to when the game first started, it first started to kind of blow up, like Blue Drake 42. Like Blue Drake's whole thing was like milsim stuff, really like hard, like Arma, Project Reality, like the Battlefield, or was that a Battlefield mod? I forget. I don't even know.
Project Reality was a Battlefield mod.
Yeah,
it was about for Battlefield.
Project Reality, like all of this, like really, intense kind of milsim sort of stuff, and then Siege comes out, and it's like, oh, this is like kind of like a like SWAT, like this is like a police sort of sim overlap, and for a very long period of time, that's how a lot of people played the game. Like you would have like 5 people like stack up behind each other, and then they would go like, all right, 3, 2, 1, bang, and then like go about it like really like super slow and like slow peak everything. And now the way the game is played, because of just experimentation over a long period of time, people have started to realize like, oh, this is a little bit more complicated than that.
Oh yeah, no. When Siege first started, I remember like just absolutely nutty shit. Like the idea of vertical control.
It's like,
excuse you?
Huh?
Yeah. Hold on. Huh? You can hold a site without even being on it. What?
The concept of there being a staircase close to a bomb site just completely confusing everyone who came to this game from Counter-Strike, because all of Counter-Strike is kind of one linear map, aside from the one time you have one tunnel that goes underneath it, and that's the only time you have to worry about a staircase. And then in this one, you can literally hold a sight from 2 floors above it, and everyone's going, "Excuse me?
Yeah.
How does this even function as a video game? This is ridiculous. I need my level playing field to just mow people down because I played Doom."
and it humbled me really quick because I played a lot of COD and I played a lot of CS:GO growing up.
Oh yeah.
And my thing was just, I would just run around like a moron and just rely on my gun skill, like pretty much. And I had a couple of buddies that were not dumb, like they knew how to play CS:GO, but they I was always like the fragger on the team, and I would just rush in, and then they'd be like, "Dude, don't do that," and I'd be like, W mouse one, go bang. And that would work, pretty well for a while until I got into Siege, and eventually I realized like, oh, this is like a chess game with guns, and that's a very interesting take on the genre that I don't think any other developer has really done, and I think that's why it's so popular. But for the YouTube thing, it's always been an interesting kind of balance, like trying to keep up with whatever meta was going on, and also and do what I was doing at college. Also doing stuff for the fraternity. Pretty much like being a fraternity president is about as close to a full-time job you can get without getting paid for it, which is kind of gets a little frustrating after a little bit, but I'm glad that I did it, and I still have a lot of the memorabilia from the trips that I took, like these pins and coins and whatnot. Like I got this from I don't know if the camera's gonna focus on it, but these were from a trip that I took, the Fedazai Foundation coins and stuff, to St. Louis on a Greyhound bus.
Oh boy!
From Maryland, from Frederick, Maryland to
St. Louis,
Missouri.
From the west to the Midwest.
That's like
of a trip.
11-hour bus.
On a Greyhound.
That's nuts.
On several different Greyhounds.
Like
yeah.
Oh my god.
So it's like,
and then going back again, son. I wouldn't do that.
We flew back. We flew back. We couldn't do it
for your own sanity.
We couldn't do it.
You did.
And the reason the Greyhound story is hilarious, but it was terrifying at the time because we had no idea. It was me and a buddy. We had a conference we basically had to go to, in order to keep the chapter alive. There's like this accreditation thing that there's a big checklist of stuff that you have to go down the list, and going to this event was one of them. Because the chapter was already on a probationary period from screwing it up last year. That was the guy before me when I came in.
Right.
So when I came in, it was just sort of like, okay, you need to make sure that we don't like fail this check again. Otherwise, Nationals is going to come through and they're going to be really upset, and we might lose the chapter if we don't have enough members. So I was like, okay, cool, no pressure. Right.
How does it feel to be a politician coming in from someone else who screwed stuff up and fixing everything that they did wrong? That's got to be like. But you said you were there for 2 consecutive terms, which makes everyone else think you were doing something right. So
I like to think that I was. Some of the conversations I would have with people on occasion, you wouldn't think that they felt the same way. But at the end of the day, it was one of those things where it's like I got my cost, like I got my W, right? It's like, you went 3-8. It's like, okay, well, who won and who lost? Like, what stat matters, right? Like the chapter got accredited, so if you want to claim that it was this and that, like this person doing whatever, then that's up to you. But I will take credit for going on this trip. We and I had to basically like, it was really convenient doing YouTube. It was really convenient that the YouTube channel blew up at the time that it did, because it just about coincided with that. Because I was going like out of pocket for the tickets for this. We were originally going to drive there, and I was talking it over with my parents, and my mom, who's very loving and very protective of a lot of the things that I do. Looked up the weather report.
Shout out to the moms. Moms are great.
Shout out to my mom.
Looked up the weather report of what was going on the interstate highway here. and she saw a video of a car that looked exactly like mine, a jet black Chevy Impala Limited.
Oh, I know where this was going.
Sliding off into a guardrail, and she was like, "This is a premonition." You know, she's like super Scots Irish, right? Kind of old school sort of person, and she was like, "You're not doing this."
My son Gregor will not be going.
He is not doing this.
Absolutely not. I'm seeing this is not good.
She got so close to getting on the phone with the headquarters and just being like, "This isn't happening." And I was just like,
came to me in a dream.
Stop.
My baby Gregor. He can't.
It's like, what about it's like, so how are you going to get there? It's like plane tickets. And I was like, it's too early. Like, I'm not going to buy a plane ticket to St. Louis a week before. It's going to cost $1 million. Right? So she was like, get a Greyhound. Take a Greyhound. Which didn't seem like a bad idea to either of us at the time. But the problem was that the same Greyhound buses that Billy Joel is singing about in New York State of Mind are the same Greyhound buses that were coming out of this station from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And they haven't been serviced. Mm-hmm. So the whole time we're taking these buses on the interstate highway, and you're chilling in the back, and the suspension on these things hasn't been changed since they came off of the production line
for 11 hours.
You can feel this thing in the back just going like the whole way. And
oh, no.
I didn't really have a thing with motion sickness, right? But my buddy Marcus did. And when we got the connecting bus out of Pittsburgh on our way into Indianapolis, we were like, okay, this is good. This is the home stretch. We only have one more stop to make from Indianapolis to St. Louis, and we're good. And then my buddy Marcus goes into the latrine in the back, and I think he's fine, but he's not. He's actually like projectile vomiting into this latrine on the way back at 70 miles an hour on the interstate. So we get to the station, and he goes up to the bus.
Your bus had a bathroom on it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then you had a nice Greyhound then.
A nice Greyhound, still from 1982.
Nice. It was nice that it had a bathroom, because then he just would have ended up projectile vomiting all over the, you know.
Oh yeah, no.
The seats.
The buses from like Boston to New York don't have bathrooms.
Ugh.
And they don't.
I can't even imagine that. But we got to Indianapolis, and he was like, and I've had motion sickness before, like, and I don't know if you guys have. I know, Chowder, you work on boats occasionally, right?
Yeah, I've gotten seasick before.
It's not fun.
Nope.
It's not fun even a little bit. And like it's something that you can't really describe to somebody unless they've like had it for themselves. It's like all of the pain associated with like nausea and having like a sick stomach, but like you also feel like you're gonna pass out for several seconds at a time. At any given moment, you're just gonna fucking. It's horrible. And I understood why my buddy wasn't able to take this return leg trip from Indianapolis to St. Louis. So
because he was a coward.
Yeah, exactly. And they
didn't have back in the bathroom.
And they did because that was the plan. You just flew back because you were like, "Well, I can't stand this anymore. So
can't do it."
Marcus isn't dying on this fucking Greyhound.
We're not. Yeah, it's not worth it, guys. So I call up the national HQ, and I'm like, "Hey, this isn't happening." And they're just like, "Oh wow, that's so terrible. Do they have any Dramamine at the bus station?" And I'm like, "No, they have pretzels and Gatorade.
There might be a condom machine in the bathroom. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
what if that?
There's a guy selling something kind of weird looking out in the back that just
there might be a glory hole.
Actually, I think he's getting arrested now. Okay, yeah, there's no Dramamine at this place. Like, we're not in the nice part of Indian. Anytime you're in a Greyhound bus station, you're never gonna be like in the quote nice part of town.
No,
you know. So we managed to get a hotel that was relatively close and stay the night. But my poor buddy is still like going in and out of the bathroom, like throwing up every other hour. I wake up like it's like going in and out, like 4.5 hours of sleep total of just me being like, and then bleh. Oh, he's fine. Okay. How long is this gonna? What time is it? 2 a.m. And then it just gets worse and worse as the story goes on. We get up, and we're gonna take the final return leg of the trip. We're good. I call up the HQ, and I'm like, hey, we bought another ticket. It's all good. Fine. We line up, 3 p.m., the bus is supposed to leave. I look over at the bus. I look at my ticket. We're not boarding yet. That's kind of weird. I go up to the guy, and I'm like, hey, are we supposed to get on the bus? He's like, not yet. I was like, all right. Then we just chill for a bit. Look at the ticket again. The bus is still there. Hey, can we... You'll get on the bus when the bus is leaving. Okay. Yeah, and it was one of those things where it's like, you know, it's a really very, very tall man, like 6'4".
I had an experience like that, except it was in Iceland at 2 a.m.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Like none of the signs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in like Reykjavik proper. I was outside Reykjavik, over by Keflavik, sort of halfway in between Reykjavik. So the airport is 45 minutes away from the city.
Mm-hmm.
So none of the signs in between Reykjavik and Keflavik are in English because they don't expect anyone. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, excuse me. Hello. I'm wondering if you can help me. What do you want? Right? And so I'm sitting there talking to like this fucking Viking.
An actual Viking.
So like everyone there is just very much like one drink away from taking an axe and splitting a goat in half. So I'm sitting there. Excuse me. Is this the right bus? Do you have your ticket? My ticket isn't in English. Can I see your ticket? Okay. I just hand the guy his ticket. 5 minutes down that way. There's your stop. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So,
I can just see you just scampering away as quickly as possible.
The worst part about this was that the bus left anyway. Even though we insisted on trying to make sure, it was me, a pregnant woman, a exchange student from really far away who doesn't know anything about what's going, because he's used to these things called airports.
Oh yeah,
where they have gates that are marked, and and a friendly person over the intercom that's announcing that this plane is leaving at this time now. So he's just like, none of us have any idea what's going on, and the bus leaves, and I'm like, hey man, I need to catch the bus to St. Louis. Are we going to St. Louis? And he's like, that bus is gone. I'm like, what do you mean it's gone?
Oh, come on.
So we literally go back to the ticket counter, and I'm like, hey man, the bus that I was supposed to get on just left. And then he's like, y'all didn't get on the bus? And I was like, we're not about to have this argument. Okay, you want to say, like, in the most direct manner possible, no, we did not get on the bus, but we tried our best. And it was literally right there, and now it's not. So then, he's used to dealing with people that are argumentative all the time about this sort of stuff, right? So instead of having a whole big thing about it, he's just like, all right, we'll get you on the next... Because it was me and 5 other people that were all apparently just as stupid as each other.
You didn't guilt trip him about the fact that there's a pregnant woman sitting right next to you who also didn't get on the same bus? Just going, hey, think about her. I don't matter. My friend who was throwing up in the other bathroom doesn't matter, but her, she's carrying a child.
We were all just
feel bad for her sake.
We were all incredulous as to how incompetent this whole outfit could have been. So we were just like, whatever, man. We get the final bus that's supposed to come at 7 p.m. It doesn't come. 8 p.m. It doesn't come. 10 p.m. It doesn't come. Midnight. It doesn't come. It didn't come until 1 a.m. in the morning, and it's a 4-hour trip. So we didn't get to St. Louis until 5 a.m. in the freaking morning, and we had to, like, make sure that we had somebody from the fraternity conference pick us up. I had to get on the phone and be like, hey, can we get a ride? And they were like, I don't know.
Oh, God.
How would you... Do you know anyone here that could possibly... And I was like, It's a Greyhound bus station in the middle of downtown St. Louis, and the sun is down. If I die as a result of doing this conference, you better give this chapter free accreditation, no questions asked. And they were just like, all right, fine, we'll figure something out, and they did. But I literally, like, 2 hours of sleep when I get to the cabin, wake up, and the sun's up, and I look outside, and you can just hear in the distance the noise of frat brodom as everyone else wakes up to go get breakfast, and it's like complete surreal state, like that part in the movie where the guy gets out of the coma and just get up and you're just like, oh, what? And there's like birds. There's like birds chirping, and then in the distance you can hear like, oh, I did what? Oh, I did what? Oh, what? Really did what? And you're like, fraternity, bros? What?
Am I home?
Did I make it? And then this other guy who was like the chapter head that I've been on the phone with the whole time, I can like see him in the distance, like walking up to the cabin, and he's like, boy, you sure had a hell of a trip. And I was like, I'm hungry. You have any food? And he's like, right this way. But that was the most terrifying travel experience I can definitely think of. I'd have to spend like a whole podcast episode just talking about the specifics of that. There was a part where the Greyhound bus guy was when we got on the bus, he was like, just so everybody knows, the emergency door almost came off on the last trip, and then somebody almost fell out. So don't hit the emergency release unless it's actually an emergency. Yeah, don't do that. And I was like, I might if it gets really bad. I don't know. We'll see.
Thanks for confirming I have an easy exit off of this thing.
You know, it's just like,
whenever I want to eat out, I will.
Terrible. Going to Montreal and back, much more much more accommodating travel experience.
No, I just drive that. It's just 6 hours.
Except for the part
for you can, yeah.
Except for the part where Air Canada left one of the bags that I was supposed to bring back with me to the States, because it was a connecting flight from Montreal to Toronto and then back into DC, Dulles. But they left one of my bags in the connecting flight. They left it in Toronto, which had the drive that I was given from Ubisoft to record the Chimera footage. So like literally everything that could have possibly went wrong is going through my mind here, where I'm just like, oh my god.
And this was the moment Ubisoft cut ties with Greg.
It was like the baggage people, like it literally every worst case scenario, you know, like the commercial where the gorilla gets the luggage and they're just like, just like throws it all over the cabin and all that. I'm picturing the drive like going like, and I'm like, ah! Just absolute paranoia for
ouch,
for 24 hours straight. And I get back to Dulles and I'm like, can I please get my bag? And they're like, we will get you your bag, we promise. And I was just like,
in 2 months.
Okay. But they actually got it within 2 days.
That's not bad.
And then it wasn't bad. But then I couldn't really do anything with the footage because I had an exam coming up. And then the Chimera video that probably should have come out when I was in Montreal, because everybody had they had these cool things called laptops that they can edit videos with. Chromebooks can't.
Oh, those are sweet. I've heard about those.
Chromebooks can't really do that. So
you ever tried to edit a video through your Chrome browser before? Not me.
Not gonna work. So everybody else had like these, had like content the day of when the embargo came up, and I was just sort of like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Okay, I'll just wait until I get back home. And then I tried to wait until I got back home, but then the bags got stuck. So that's how that was my Montreal experience. It was a lot of fun. I'd still like to go to a LAN if I can help it, but
Question is when the next one comes up.
Because exactly. All this stuff has been on hold.
If it's not canceled, it's the Boston one.
Oh, really?
Well, hold on. The Boston one is and like an NAT3 one, which I've heard some things about.
It's like the tiniest land in human history.
You're talking about You're talking about that.
Yeah.
The AGN one, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we specifically talk about like big events, period, there's supposed to be
the NA
the North American major, but the problem with that is I actually asked somebody about it. We've had both 6 majors happen in August, so I would assume the next one will just continue to take place August-wise, but I've been told that a decision hasn't even been made on whether that's going to be a thing or not. It's not like, oh, is it going to happen? Yes or no. It's that they haven't talked about that part of it yet. They just haven't gotten as far as they want.
I imagine you probably can't at this point, right?
My hope is that they just don't. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that we're not going to get another like massive, just any big concert or congregation for something for maybe till 2021, because I don't know if anyone's really going to be confident enough to hold a massive audience in a building for a whole weekend until
Gregor,
this thing is
Gregor, 2021 is next year. You don't need to look on the calendar.
Oh God.
Isn't it a 14-month calendar? There are ones who do like 2 months in the future in case you forget to buy a new calendar.
There's still this much left.
Yes, Gregor, there's still like 8 players left.
We're only a quarter of the way through.
There's still the entire offensive line. Yes, that's correct.
Offensive line.
We're only in April. I want death.
Don't
I don't want
talk
to live
me
on this
about
earth
an offensive
anymore.
line, okay? I've heard enough. I don't want to hear it. You're good. You're New England. You're fine.
I'll break out my Bronco jersey as one of the bad offensive lines because I have been plagued for 3-4 years now.
You've been plagued with John Elway. That's the
Yes, we've been plagued with John Elway.
That's your problem.
Yes.
Actually have a hat for this. Hold on. What's up? What's good? How you doing?
I don't need this sack from a possible Patriots fan. God.
Oh, and it's so frustrating because baseball season was going to start weeks ago, and it's just
urinating tree doesn't have anything to make content on.
Oh, it's tough. I remember because the week before the whole like lockdown stuff started happening, me and my friends who were all very equally stupid as all the people who also went to the bar with us, because I think we all had the same idea where it was just like, okay, this is inevitable, right? So let's just have like one, final send off. No one's gonna go because everyone's gonna be too afraid to because of this, right?
Bar's packed, right?
Wrong. Like bumper to bumper traffic. The whole bar is like this.
Oh, don't worry. I did that too.
Yeah.
And you bring back memorabilia from this trip.
And the Facebook photo I have, it's funny because we took a picture at the bar, and you know how the Facebook photos have the filters that you can put on them now. So one of them was like the one with the Lysol can spraying, like this. It was at the bar when this was taking place, so there's like a little bit of irony there. But
see, my mistake was this.
Oh man,
you did. That was the last thing you went to.
That was the last thing I went to.
That's probably
And then like 2.5 weeks later, I started having chest pain, and I'm like, oh.
That's the incubation period, isn't it?
Yup.
Sheesh.
Welcome to thinking you're asymptomatic, but lol.
That must have been tough. I didn't get very bad. I only had like a little bit of a chest cold that was probably just a regular seasonal flu, or like just a seasonal cold.
I came down with something that I called out of, I think, a day or two of work for. That wasn't like confirmed cases or anything. I wasn't diagnosed, but I definitely was like, yep, I've got 2 out of 5 symptoms right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm calling out of work because I can't do it with a fever of 102, but it wasn't what I thought it was. So I escaped. Barely.
I have older parents, so for me, it's like, the idea of like going out and like getting sick and then bringing it back is just, fucking horrifying, right? So I've just been playing it safe this whole time. I've just been chill about it. And it's funny because like a lot of my like more boomer kind of conservative family members have been sort of like up until the point when Orange Man came up and he was like, 2 big words, national emergency. Which I still can't believe he said on national television, but it's just too ridiculous. But finally he goes up and says that, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, this is actually a problem, isn't it?" after I've been screaming and jumping up and down for like weeks before that, I feel like the one guy in the Chernobyl show, where they're in the helicopter and he's like, "Don't fly over the thing, or it'll blow up," and then fucking don't do that. And everyone's like, "I want to do it anyway." Well, you shouldn't do that. It's like weeks of this going on until finally it like caught up. But we're in strange times, man. Especially like a lot of these orgs like Rec are starting to get hit.
I mean, that's like the first one that I think took the biggest hit.
Yeah. So a lot of these orgs are like pretty much funded by like venture capital money, because the idea is, we'll invest in this organization now, and then we'll wait until they can grow up and be something big, like something like the Kraft Group, or God, what's his name? He's that Mark Cuban?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, something like Mark Cuban, how he owns a bunch of sports leagues, right?
Mm.
So they're sitting there thinking like, oh, we can get the next, we can be on the ground floor of the next Kraft Group, right? So they'll invest in like Evil Geniuses, or they'll invest in Team Reciprocity, or they'll invest in, I don't know, Splice, Optic.
Doesn't Dark Zero have like a stupid amount of capital too?
I don't know how Zach has that much money to run DZ. I wish I thought it was just
real
from
estate.
that kind of but just something super basic that's got a whole bunch of funds through it, so he can do literally whatever he wants with that org.
It always feels like esports orgs are always like a side project for some of these like really wealthy guys that just
90% of the time it
have
is,
a lot of capital, and they're just like,
lots of these teams after franchising have all gotten funding from NBA owners and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's literally a team called the Golden Guardians, which is owned by fucking the Golden State Warriors, right?
Yep.
A lot of these esports teams are just, we have money.
Which team is it that has the Dallas? It's in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that sounds right. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Complexity is owned by the Dallas sports people. Like how Boston Uprising is owned by like the same people who own Boston Uprising is owned by fucking the Kraft Group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's the same people who own like the Patriots and
that's crazy.
It's got Kraft in it, so he's got to be has to have his name over everything with Boston on it, except the Celtics.
You can take the Celtics from my cold dead hand.
Yeah. Where's your jersey? Break it out.
We never should have gotten rid of Paul Pierce, but that's
Nope, you definitely shouldn't have.
we'll talk about that later.
Nah.
All right. We'll talk. That's for another time. So
Yeah.
Rec 2? Why did we trade IT? It's not important.
Rec bit the bullet because they weren't able to find enough through that investment,
and,
through venture to be able to
they're being upfront about it, right? It's look, we're gonna have to release a bunch of our teams. We're gonna give them as much support as humanly possible, but we just don't have money because the venture capital funding is completely dried up because of coronavirus, right?
No, they're still funding. Well, they're not funding. They're still representing the Siege team. But before they made the announcement about that, they were dropping their Apex team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which made me wonder whether I don't know if they still like I don't know. They keep retweeting stuff about a league team named Rainbow Seven, by the way, like a Brazilian league team called Rainbow Seven. And every time I see that, I'm so confused about why you picked that name. I don't get it.
If Rainbow Six was so good, how come they didn't make a Rainbow 7?
I know. Why wasn't it Rainbow 7 Vegas and not Rainbow 6 Vegas 2?
Actually, wasn't that be Rainbow 8 Vegas?
Oh, Rainbow 8 Vegas, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Rainbow 7 Vegas would have been Rainbow 6 Vegas, but it's just Rainbow 7 Vegas. Man.
God, what happened to Rainbow 2? Rainbow 2 would have been a killer game.
Rainbow 2 exists. There's Rainbow 6, and then there was Rainbow 2, which would have been Rainbow... We're up to, like, Rainbow 15. It's not important.
Yeah. It's like Call of Duty. It's like Call of Duty 25.
At least Final Fantasy and, like, Dragon Quest have the decency to be like, yeah, this is fucking Dragon Quest 11.
Final Fantasy 20,000.
Fucking Resident Evil 7. But it's the 7th Resident Evil.
Guys, we've been through 40,000 Warhammer games. 40,000 of them. We've been doing this for centuries.
Well, I mean,
come on, man.
In the grim darkness,
never played all of these games
there is
before.
only war. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's.
I miss good Warhammer games.
Yeah.
I miss Dawn of War 2.
I need to play Vermintide.
Dawn of War 3 was not very good.
Dawn of War 3 was not very good.
It's very sad.
So we're in a space right now where it's not economically feasible for a lot of the people who would be funding these teams to be funding these teams. And so a lot of like I don't want to say tier 2 orgs, but like a lot of the smaller orgs.
I mean, yeah, it's not unfair to call them T2, especially if they're guys like Era who want to make a comeback. That was a tier 2 org for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Because compared to the guys who came into the scene after they did.
You mean the guys who pay their players?
Yeah, exactly. The guys who play them and give them nice jerseys and stuff.
Pay your players?
What's that?
What?
Imagine treating them like employees.
A players union.
Imagine paying your players, SK Gaming.
That's tough.
Yeah. Hold on. The three big ones: Era, SK, and there was one other one, right? Flipside, technically. Yep.
I don't envy a lot of the positions that pro players in esports put themselves in, because like we're in pretty uncharted territory with this sort of stuff. You know, if you want to make an analogy to like traditional sports, we're like in the period where like, you know, baseball, in the sense of when baseball first started getting popular in like the early 1900s, you know, when they actually had like a league. Like this is all like pioneering sort of a field here, the esports market. And it's going to take a little while for us to kind of, I think, get to the point where we start seeing like these concepts like players unions start getting enacted across the board, because at a certain point the players are, I think players already have a decent amount of leverage when it comes to like just the game design to a certain point, at least, depending on how much the developers are going to listen. Like, because you can have an Overwatch situation where it's just Blizzard doing whatever the hell that they want with their league, and, you know, screw anybody else who has a disagreement with them. But I think in terms of running this sort of thing like a business, it's going to get to the point where a lot of these players are going to start to demand, you know, better environments for their job security, because you're already peaking at your career very often very early on in life, right? Like, I mean,
the joke is like, what? You turn 22 and they stick you on thermite.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just, and that's crazy, because like in traditional sports, like as soon as you get out of college, like you're probably going to be 22, 23, and you're like a little baby, right? Like you're a little baby boy learning how to play in the big leagues.
Baseball pitchers peak at like 33. Mm-hmm. Like there are baseball pitchers pitching well into their 40s and 50s.
Oh yeah.
But there are running backs in the NFL who will do great at 23 immediately after the draft, and then it's
very
weird
volatile.
How it correlates.
Well, that's the brain damage.
Or then you might get a Todd Gurley.
I mean, yes.
Or you could be like Todd Gurley, and then your knees are just you have 65-year-old knees. Too early.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Your knees age 40 years faster than the rest of your body does, and then it just tanks your career. But I think here's an interesting thing to consider, which we probably haven't yet. If we keep on getting mainstream esports coverage from a large streaming perspective, or it gets put on TV because there's no actual sports to put on TV, so ESPN starts covering stuff, or Fox or NBC are starting to look into additional methods of programming.
Well, sure.
Overwatch has been on ESPN a couple times.
But Overwatch
which is great.
Overwatch and League have already been on ESPN.
Right, but if it keeps on getting like that additional coverage, the point I'm trying to make is this is probably the best time for Rainbow to have said, we are going to move into this new format, format that makes it a lot easier for everyone to kind of understand like how we play the game. It's working off a point system. You know, we are restructuring everything on how we're doing this, which means there's literally never been a better time to get into it, because we had a system, it's shoddy, we're not using it anymore, so now we can do this other thing. And it's like everyone's going to be jumping on it because they want to learn how it works. They want to see how this entire system is going to correlate to the rest of esports. And it's going to be front and center on, like, everyone's going to be watching this because there's nothing else to consume at the moment. So
and then I think as well, a lot of people are realizing what's nice about esports is that while it is very serious, there's also a lot of levity, right? So one of my favorite things to watch was like during the first iRacing and like eNASCAR events. Was watching the commentators realizing that the people who weren't the professional drivers were just hard overtaking and getting into crashes.
Going, wait, what are you doing?
And they're sitting there like, oh my God, there's a crash, right? Because they're used to being like, Jesus Christ, is he alive? And like the drivers are sitting there going like, I'm just gonna fucking do it if I get a penalty point. Right? So it changes the game.
You can just full send it.
You can just full send it, right?
The whole time.
It completely changes the game.
It's funny because that's what Dale Earnhardt did before anybody else was doing it. Right, all the time. But Dale Earnhardt, the only reason Dale Earnhardt was because he was the only guy doing that crap.
Yeah.
Now everybody's
we have
doing
neck braces. So.
Oh man, Dale Earnhardt, rest in peace.
God bless.
Rest in peace, Dale Earnhardt.
God.
But so there's this very interesting element, which I think a lot of people who aren't up on esports are learning now, which is no one really gets hurt in esports. So you can kind of just, I mean, what's the worst thing that happens? Maybe you pull your wrist. Maybe you have to sit out for a game because you got like tennis elbow, right? It's not, none of these are like permanent debilitating injuries. A lot of them just take a little bit of PT, right? You're not getting taken off the field because you got a concussion because the other dude whipped his Zowie FK2 at your skull, right? Like...
My monitor got sabotaged and a blinding red light showed up in my eyes for a second. I need to sit out for a game, coach. My brain hurts.
These analogies.
What happened? He threw his secret lab chair at me. My arm is in 3 places.
This analogy overlap gets funnier the more you go into it.
So there's this human element, right? You've got all of the human drama of something like football, where there's millions of dollars on the line. It's huge, it's big, it's roaring crowds in arenas,
massive Bud Light advertisements. Yeah,
except you look at something like the league finals, which is in like the big arena. It's about the same size arena as something like the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
over in Korea, the league finals. And
it's huge.
Everyone's in soundproof booths, so you can just focus on the game and the human drama. You don't have to worry about people getting hurt. You don't have to worry about, injury reports or anything like that. It's a much safer game. And when you have that, there's a lot more time you can just spend communicating and getting in depth and strategy, right? Because it's not, the commentators don't have to worry about fucking, and Jenkins is off the field with a severe concussion, his 3rd of the season. Will he return? It's,
and when the production is done well, there's not a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of because the NFL does everything they can to cram a commercial into timeout commercial. Guys taking a piss commercial. We got to wait for a commercial. It's like, usually that sort of thing. The only downtime you get at a LAN event is when the game in between crashes games. Or something. Yeah. Rehost.
Yeah. Right. And you can't run ads during rehosts because you don't know when it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
So basically, it's much more closer to soccer, where
that's a good analogy.
You've got to have like a running 60-minute commentary, and you've got to be ready to have a running 60-minute commentary. It's something like rugby. It's a lot of these like very long, drawn out things where it's not start stop, right? Where maybe you could have
your attention almost the entire time, and if you step away for a second, you could have missed something super pivotal without even realizing it. Like the moment when you think you're safe to leave, go grab a drink and come back, all of a sudden you're 2 rounds deep. Some teams made some weird overtake when you thought you were in the middle of a down period. All of a sudden, like if you're watching League, it just turns on its head so quick. You're like, wait, why are you already in my base? What the frick is going on? In Rainbow, you can win 2 rounds, but it's not even, it has such a different impact just because of how much stuff they'll cram into a broadcast. And I've seen that firsthand. It's so not overwhelming if you can stomach it, but it's overwhelming for people who are used to the traditional sports formula, which is to say there is a commercial every 3 minutes if there's not a drive at the moment.
And there's a lot of aspects go on.
I was going to say, and I'm really glad that we started, or they decided to put the first, few esports on, instead of it being CS or League or COD or Dota or anything like that, right?
Yep.
We started with fucking NASCAR.
An overlap to something that people were already familiar with.
It's an easier transition, yeah.
It's way easier. And because you see NASCAR and you're like, go fast, eat ass, let's go. Woo!
Cross the
Show
finish
me your
line.
butthole! Right?
It's also not a difficult concept to understand on the surface. Like, if you're...
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the thing that I think a lot of people are realizing is the reason you watch football or any other sport, like whatever sport you wanted to watch, is because it's a super easy concept when it comes down to it. Football, get the ball through the thing or past the plane of the end zone. Soccer, ball in hole. Basketball, ball in hole. Hockey, puck in goal. It's a really easy concept. NASCAR, get across the finish line first. There's nothing really else to it.
The only thing about spectator sports like that, and I think that's, obviously we're in unique circumstances because we can't go to stadiums, is that, being at an actual race is a very adrenaline filled experience. Like the sounds, the vibrations that the cars make. Like it's an experience, just to be at one of these events, but you can still appreciate it from the TV screen because if you've been following over the narrative based aspect is very important, and I think that's what CDL does a really good job of. Instead of trying to kind of instead of trying to kind of keep everybody like, okay, let's all be nice and make sure that we're not getting into each other's faces too much, okay? Distance, please. Like, they just let people just trash talk each other all the time. They let people trash talk up on stage. They let the fans trash talk. They try to get
better entertainment than the games are sometimes.
They try to get as much narrative involved into like there's stakes on the line with like every game that they go into. Now sometimes, that narrative can be forced. I mean, that happens all the time in traditional sports too. But you can leave that up to the fans to kind of like. There's always going to be situations where the fans are going to be talking about something in the bar, and then the ESPN commentator is going to be saying something completely different. That's always going to be the case. But I think that an emphasis on having a narrative over the course of a long period of time, and this emphasis on a new kind of ranking system for Siege, I think is going to be really important in the long run. Because before it was just like it's impossible to track like what's going on, like unless you keep up with it like as much as you can on like a month-to-month basis. Like like 3 months ago, like this team just won this major, and then I go into the chat for the next game and they're like, this team's washed, and it's like, what? They just. Dude, it hasn't even been a year yet. Like,
it felt very much like you needed to keep up on your Wikipedia knowledge in order to really understand, which is something you really shouldn't have to do. And the nature of a game like Siege is already so complicated comparative to its other FPS counterparts that's why I was concerned it wasn't like getting enough viewership because it wasn't bringing enough new people back to a pro broadcast. Because if you can, like, COD has very simple objective lines and the combat's easy to understand. CSGO, very simple objective lines, very easy to understand. It's a linear playing field. Siege can have multiple floors, destructible environments, 7,000 different ways of taking one site on one map, and then you've got a ranking system on top of it and a qualification system that, to some people, will make zero sense unless you dive into the documentation or watch the ESL broadcast before this one to understand how blah, 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 so-and-so.
It's got to be one of the most difficult games to cast. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I mean, let's take something, for example, like really simple, right? The thing that I compare Siege casting to the most is something like a high skill fighting game.
That's a good way to put it.
Right? Because, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, the people who cast Smash have a hell of a job explaining what the fuck is going on.
Oh, I know. I agree. Because there's so much going on in the metagame that you wouldn't necessarily know about unless you explain it to somebody.
Like,
the average person would look by and they just see like two things going.
Right? You've got, edge guarding, wave dashing, just like we have bandit tricking, right? So you've got these like very complicated tech maneuvers, which while necessarily not designed to be in the game, I remember pretty famously, one of the developers said, yeah, we did not make bandit tricking. We have no idea how it happened, but it's there.
There's so many mechanics like that in this game where the devs like built something.
Bandit tricking, Tide tricking, impact tricking, Maverick tricking.
It's just a timing game, which so many, like you can design a game to play in a specific way, but if you get your timing down, then players can turn it into whatever they want it. So, I mean, it's not even to say that like bandit tricking is like does something that like breaks the game. It's just there. People just experimented enough, screwed with shit, and figured it out. Like it's
the player base, the single player base of Siege is always going to be larger than the Ubisoft dev team.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's always going to be more people that are going to be able to figure something out. It's like that. It's like that scene in the Apollo 13 movie where they have to figure out how to put the square peg in the round hole. Look, get like a whole bunch of people to do it. It's like the Ubisoft team is on the ship in space, and then all the rest of the PL scene and the players are at Houston.
Yeah.
So they'd have the advantage of more people and more time.
So when you look at something like Siege and you're trying to cast it and explain it to an audience that might not necessarily know how it works, what you have to do is you have to try to find comparisons, or you just have to fucking explain it. And a lot of the time that can interrupt the flow of the cast, right? So when you have something as viciously complicated and utterly stupid as teams attacking CCTV wall on Clubhouse, right? Which I would consider one of the most complex maneuvers you have to do in Siege.
I would agree. It's one of the more complicated takes. It's one of the more complicated takes in the game in general.
You've got runouts from two different sides, from garage and stock. You have someone who can bandit trick from the opposite end. You probably want someone on the roof watching from the server window to see if you can't counteract someone trying to put a bandit back on the same wall.
You want to get garage control.
Yep.
You want to contest the guy on cat. If you can't kill the guy on cat, and if you don't have somebody, if they reinforce the catwalk wall leading from the server stack, like where the catwalk and the server stack is.
You've also got to open the garage wall to get an angle on that window
on the guy.
From CCTV to cat to stop the rotate, right? Yeah. Like this is just.
I always described it as a Rubik's cube with explosions.
Yeah,
if you're looking at
attacking CCTV cache,
it's a gunfight with extra steps.
Is the hardest thing to learn, because basically it's like, okay, well, how else do you push CCTV cache? You don't. I mean, you can send someone in the back through construction, but other than that, that's not gonna fucking work.
Which is one doorway. You have like multiple ways to get to construction. You've got one other method of getting through to cache room, and that's red stairs, which is already a death trap.
Yeah.
So good luck. If you don't have the wall open, you're not able to distract people and push them back far enough away from the site to get a pick.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't wait to get to like the map how-to parts of my YouTube stuff once I finish up these operator guides, because like I have learned more about Rainbow Six Siege and how it actually plays by just looking at one map and specifically dissecting like how a take works, how a defense works, because it's a puzzle piece. It's like Rainbow Six Siege is basically two teams trying to finish their end of the puzzle piece before the other team does. And it's a game that punishes mistakes extremely hard.
Oh yeah.
Extremely. Like
it's kind of like the defense is the one putting the puzzle together, but if the attackers can interrupt the puzzle before it's like completely done, because you can argue half the puzzle for defense is figuring out what your site setup looks like, and the rest of it is just a matter of positioning and spatial awareness. But the attacking team has to account for all of that, plus 700 tons of gadgetry that you can pull out of your magic satchel, like we talked about with Sternab last week, and shove all of that into a site. So the attackers have that to contend with, defenders positioning to contend with in the same breath, and 3 minutes to do it. Well, technically like 3.5 with prep phase, but still. Point stands.
It's not
ridiculous.
It's not a purely gun skill based esport like COD, and CS:GO. I would argue is a little bit more gun skill based than Siege, but only because it doesn't have utility as much of an emphasis on. Because, CS:GO has smokes.
All of the smokes and frags are consistent. So if you just learn how to do that, you don't have to worry about it.
That's about as complicated as the puzzle piece gets in CS:GO. Because that's about as meta as you can get with how a map is constructed in CS. With Siege, people, sometimes you'll get a situation where like Broder's been in the game for forever, and that map's like solved, right? Like there's not a whole lot more you can really do with that at this rate.
We're calling it stale because it plays the same way over and over,
And that's why it's commonly referred to as like a gunner map, and just a matter of like which team is gonna win their fights more than the other. Which I personally don't think is a bad thing from a spectator point of view if it's done on a map that is a little bit more entertaining. I'd probably say. Like I personally enjoy playing on Broder, but whenever it comes on during ESL playdays, I'm just like.
I'm the same way because I also don't play Broder the same way that you'll see it get played on an ESL broadcast. So I'll look at what they're doing and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. My teammates won't do that, or the other team won't be expecting a take from this side. So I can't use it as a reasonable estimation for how my game goes in high gold elo. So it's just not going to happen.
And ranked and PL or ranked and comp are just
two completely different animals. Yeah,
totally different. And I always try to emphasize that with the videos I make, and people come on my stream all the time and they'll ask me like a million questions about like, why are you running this attachment on this gun? Oh, how come you're doing this? Oh, suppressor on this? Oh, muzzle brake on that? Hey, what gun do you use on this operator? Oh, it's like, guys, like, there's no magic solution here that's gonna make you bolo. Trust me, I've tried. I've tried. Like, it's all preference. What you need to focus on is how
I've got the exact monitor. I've got this mouse from TSM. I've already hooked up the same aspect ratio, same in-game same settings. I even have the same. If I can move to where he lives in the middle of Florida, then maybe I'll have a chance. But I just want to aim like bolo.
This is going back to the clubhouse thing that you brought up. You know, it's like if you don't know how to do and execute, if you don't know how to do a take, none of that is going to matter. I've had so many games of ranked just on stream. You can pull them up on stream. Like Canal, for some reason, me and my buddies keep getting Canal every time we play. I don't know why. I think Ubisoft.
I'm so sorry.
I think Ubisoft
for the same reason everyone else keeps getting Chalet and not a comp map. Like
I fucking hate Chalet.
I know Ubisoft hates me because every time I get on, I get at least Outback or Canal or Chalet, at least those two in some combination during the stream at least a couple of times.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but. We've gotten so good at Canal on attack because we've gotten so sick of getting Canal on attack first, so we're just like, okay, we're gonna get one attack round on Canal and then we're good, right? Because defense, like if you lose on defense first on Canal, you're basically throwing because it's such a defender-sided map. But like the game is completely different once you just like stop. Getting in your head about like how many picks you're getting and how you're going to win this gunfight. I'm not saying that gunfights aren't important to win, but it also mischaracterizes players a lot. I always hear people talk about how like one player is just a fragger and that's all they do. Like they're just this brain dead guy who just like wide swings everything and relies solely on their gun skill. There are players that are very talented in aiming in this game. Don't get me wrong, but the overwhelming majority of the time, they're doing multiple steps ahead of time that's putting themselves in an advantageous situation for them in order to get that pick, right? Like you have to get to a point where you can take a gunfight and have a higher percentage chance to win that than just swinging something for like no reason that's going to give you a 22% chance of winning that fight.
And this is the reason why Siege is such a hard esport to get into from an entry level, if only because the game itself has a learning curve, complicated state.
Yeah,
exactly. So for it to get kind of absorbed into the bigger, I don't want to say hierarchy of esports, but like the bigger esports cycle, I guess. If you were going to look at any number of like FPS games to watch, you're going to go for the one that you understand the best. And this is something I know I think both Parker and Kickstar have probably mentioned this at one point or another, but you are almost always in a state of having to over-explain because you feel like there is so much happening here. And to echo what you said, teams and players are going 3 to 4 steps ahead to try to figure out if like this side execute is going to work. But the casters have to explain what the execute is or what it at least looks like to be able to give someone who's new a general idea of what's about to happen, and to also kind of like help the audience have confidence that the casters know what they're talking about to help like lead them into the rest of the match. So it's such an inherently complicated game without having to explain how it's played competitively or professionally that it had me worried for a bit that it wasn't really going to find a way to take off, because it's got moving piece after moving piece and so many methods of explaining it. It almost feels it's sometimes it feels futile, except when you can focus on the storylines behind every team going into it, as opposed to what's happening like mid-round, which is kind of the thing I've tried to focus on. But I know it goes several different ways.
I mean, it's in my experience. Go on.
When you think about it, like trying to explain like a default plant site of something like Clubhouse, I'll go back to it. Clubhouse CCTV.
Sure, yeah.
That default plant site versus something like Dust 2 B site planting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you're planning on Dust 2 in CS, your objective is to get the least amount of surface area possible showing to any and all possible people. That's why you see a lot of CS players plant in corners or
cover as much angle as possible.
As possible, right? When you're planting CCTV default, you are very vulnerable because Siege is a 3-dimensional game.
Mm-hmm.
So all someone has to do is look up and shoot.
Yep. C4.
That's it.
Yep.
In CS, you can win a 1v1 when you're planting because you know they have to come at you sideways. In Siege, Velcro rip, you're done. You don't have time. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the Velcro rip on top of the run out from gym window looking into server window, or someone coming back up rafters if you didn't clear it, or someone coming from top red, or the guy who for some reason sat in construction
and we didn't clear the Maestro camera, so it keeps going beep beep beep.
Or we didn't find the yokai and all of a sudden it stops you mid plant with 2 seconds left. Yeah.
So we're just Siege is just an infinitely, and that's not to say games like CS or Dota or League aren't complex. But
they're complex in their simplicity, because once you figure out what a normal take looks like and you kind of figure out a map or a specific site, then it becomes, what do I do to counter my opponent's counter of my original counter to get this bomb down? So you keep on overlapping strat upon strat upon strat upon strat. But Siege, you have the flexibility to kind of do anything. So it's complex because of just the amount of things you can do on a surface level, rather than thinking about how to stop your opponent from doing the thing you were trying to do, that you were already doing, to do the thing to blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
The other aspect, I think, is we've had so much content added to the game. Like, when Siege first came out and we had like the DLC operators within a year's time, and that was 8 operators. I remember thinking to myself at the time when I was making YouTube videos, I was like, wow, this will get to a point where if they keep doing this for enough time, like if they release 2 operators by 4 operators by the time Black Ice came out, or was it Black Ice?
Dustline,
yeah. Four new operators by the time Dustline came out, and you're thinking like, that's not really a lot. Like, I'm still gonna pick Thermite. I'm still gonna pick Thatcher. I'm still gonna pick Ash on entry, right? But over time, the DLC operators have completely overshadowed the vanilla operators in terms of like how much we've added to the game.
Yeah.
So in terms of operator selection and stratting, there's so many different avenues that you have to approach the game from. Especially now that we're like, I think we're moving away from like a bit more of an intel-based meta to just a really big gadget soak and utility dumping meta, because we have so many operators on defense that just by virtue of existing, they can contribute to their team because they put something down and they're just like, all right, I'm good. Whereas with the attackers,
theoretically, like, No, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with the attackers, you have to go out of your way to get rid of it, right? Like, it's like rock, paper, scissors, but somebody else has already, like, picked rock, and you don't know if you're going to be able to bring paper, because if you bring paper, then you might not be able to bring scissors. So it's gotten really, really complicated in terms of, like, what we're going to deal with when we get into the site, but we don't really have a choice. Once we come across it, we're going to have to deal with it one way or another. And that's why I feel like when Ubisoft puts out statements talking about game balance and they go, okay, well, we're adjusting this for the Pro League meta. It's like, yeah, there's a Pro League meta and there's a ranked meta, but there's nothing keeping anybody from ranked going into a team comp and focusing on a really Goyo-based strat, right? Mm-hmm. It's just what you feel like doing, and most people in ranked would rather run around and gun their way out. But in my experience, at least on my stream, and I'm not a nuts player by any stretch of the imagination, in my experience, you're definitely going to get away more times than not by, quote, doing the right thing and just focusing on the fundamentals and just attacking or defending the map in the way that it's, quote, like, meant to be played, than running around and relying, like, solely on your fragging power. And that's the problem that we're running into now with a lot of these, with the defense meta. We're starting to see, like, okay, yeah, no dip. The average person doesn't know how strong Goyo is on defense. But if somebody knows what they're doing, it's just free. It's just free when you're playing against somebody who's not experienced to the game. And that's where the skill and experience gap, it's almost like a martial art in a way. If you're going to spar with somebody who has, like, 3,000 hours of sparring experience versus somebody at 400 hours, who do you think is going to win? I mean, that's just how it is. Like,
I remember seeing something almost like, if you can play rock, paper, scissors, or you have the option to play rock, paper, scissors, so bring all the operators and all the utility that you need to work on a site to play rock, paper, and scissors wherever you need to. And then you've got the guy running around with 30 hours in the game who just says, screw your rock, paper, scissors game, I'm just going to shoot. Like, it's a... What was it? It's a very middle school joke where you just go rock, paper, scissors, gun, hello. I'm not even using the thing that the game is telling me to use. Yeah. Because it's not something that they're required to do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's because so many players are looking at maybe even part of the meta realizing it's very gadget focused and going, it's not something I want to bother putting the time into. I don't want to figure out what this counter is because I can just pick an operator with decent movement speed and a weapon that I can figure out the recoil pattern on pretty fast, slap an angle grip on that thing.
At Jaeger.
And now I can, find a way to...
He's on the cover of the game. Yeah. He's on the cover of the game when you buy it. He's one of the most recognizable characters.
Learn how to play Buck when I can play Ash.
Yep.
Why would I need to ever figure out how to bandit trick something where I can pick Doc and find all the good spawn peek angles and get them before they even reach the garage? That's it.
Or Rook. I put down my armor. I helped.
Yeah. Cool. That's it. I'm Capcan. I figured out how to put traps not at waist height but down here, and that's all I need to do.
And it's good that we have operators like that.
No, it is 100%. Yeah,
I agree.
But it doesn't come back to like how it's, because I'll say it kind of like this: an operator like a Rook is very selfish when you have a Doc option on the table, but an option like Doc doesn't even come back to a competitive meta because he brings a little bit of stim to a fight and an ACOG, and that's about the only real advantage he has when you have so many other ops who can do something better to a team's composition or to a site composition rather than Doc, who just kind of seems selfish because you can sit behind an ACOG and watch an angle. Like, Capcan's a very selfish operator in that he can put his traps down, but then what else does he do? He maybe made a rotate, and then he can probably just roam. Like, what else are you going to do with a Capcan in a competitive set? You don't do anything. That's why he doesn't have a pick rate. He doesn't bring anything to an operator pool. He's just there. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the op that I ran the most when I first started the game. I was a Capcan main for my first year. I was a
Frost main.
Yeah.
And Frost was free low and low elo until I got to Plat, and then people started looking down. And even then, people don't really look down in Plat. Now people have stopped looking down in Plat, because in Plat, they're focused on trying to deal with Goyle shields, Maestro cameras, Echo drones, mirror windows, Valkyrie cameras.
There's so much stuff that you literally don't have the time to just do this because you're focused on everything else. I can't.
If I had $1 for every time that I didn't bring an IQ and I was slapping myself in the head for not bringing her because of a Valkyrie camera that we couldn't deal with, because I was like, oh crap, we need a Maverick. Someone get on Maverick. Someone get on Maverick. Someone, you know how like when you're in a stack, when someone's like, someone get on this operator, please. And you're like, fine. And then you're the guy who gets on the operator, right? And then everyone's like, hey, we didn't bring an IQ. And then you're like, did anybody else volunteer?
Yeah.
No.
Like you're kicking yourself for not bringing an IQ because you're like, oh, I'll frag my way out because Ash has an ACOG on one gun. I'll give this a shot. Blah, blah, blah.
That's why it was almost easier to just play nothing but Twitch when the F2 was still good. Because it was like, best gun on attack. Duh.
Good recoil, highest rate of fire, bullet sponge.
I think the perfect medium with balancing Siege is to keep like a happy little family of just sort of like 50-50, where it's like we have like operators that are maybe a little bit more selfish and operators that are a little bit more team play focused. So that way you kind of have like a balancing out of that sort of thing. Because if you have too much of a gadget focus, well then a lot of players are going to complain that it's becoming like a MOBA, and then the gun skill is like a secondary afterthought. But if you just make it into COD, then you're defeating the purpose of what Siege is in the first place. And that was the style of play that Empire kind of got popular for a little bit, because they were just nuts aimers, and they were like, well, we don't really care about how to play the game. We're just going to full send it every time. And it worked for a while.
For a good 3-4 month period,
yeah. It worked for a time. And then, Space Station Gaming, I think, did a really good job of describing that in a comparison with NIP. NIP was a very gun skill based team that was very not just a very good gun skill team, but they were also very good at making plays when it mattered. It wasn't just a matter of just like running around and just kind of winging it. Whenever they had intel, they acted upon it as soon as they possibly could, and they confidently took the fight and won. But SSG did a very good job of kind of taking that more strategic aspect of the game and combining it with the tactical sort of style of the game, and making it into a more well-rounded sort of approach to playing it. So I think that Invite did a really good job of highlighting the better aspects of Siege competitive play. As long as we keep going in that direction and don't try to do too much. That's why I'm happy that they're not adding as many operators to the game now. That we're like moving over to like just one operator a year. Because if we're getting to a point where we're trying to just like keep flooding the game with more and more content, it's going to get ridiculous. It's going to be impossible to balance.
You would argue at this point with the amount of content that they've added, it's kind of.
I already feel like it's too much.
It's like,
I agree.
So much other stuff to deal with, but I think the flip side of it being, if Ubisoft they need a balance in the middle of all that, because if they don't release new content, then they won't keep bringing more people back in for every season. Even if they did a map rework or a whole bunch of bug fixes per season, as opposed to focusing on the operators that they're bringing every time, they will still keep running into the issue of how do we keep on making sure our player numbers are like the best that they've ever been. Which, for everyone who's been playing the game for a long time, who realizes the position that we're in with the bug problems, the hackers, the overabundance of gadgetry, the things that you could very readily fix, all of this stuff, we see this as focus on fixing these issues first rather than the content. We might have high player numbers right now, but that's because everyone's stuck inside. We'd have higher player numbers if we fixed the issues already present within the game, then find a way to add something back in. Would you say, as someone who played through everything in beta, then played it when the game came out, when the first ops came through, when Frost and Buck showed up in Siege for Black Ice, you were kind of like, yeah, but we've already got every like strat and everything that we need with just the ops that came with the base game by itself. We don't necessarily need these ones. They're here. That's cool. Sweet. But we can already do everything that we need with the ops that are present in the game right now. You had to play that game at one point.
That was my knee-jerk reaction. I think the one thing when I saw Buck came to the game was that he could do what Sledge could do from a distance.
Yeah.
And that's the situation that Ubisoft ran into when they took away his frag grenades, because they were like, okay, this guy is a better Sledge. What was wrong with that comparison was that at a competitive level, people weren't using Buck and Sledge for the same reasons. Right? They were using them for similar reasons. They were using them on certain kinds of sites for similar purposes. But, Buck is usually going to be supported by another entry fragger that's backing up their flank. So even if they have a Claymore, it's just kind of like, okay, like, why do I need that? I already have some. If I'm doing my job properly, I already have a drone watching the rotate here, right? So it's kind of redundant. That's the only issue that I've kind of encountered with that. But with some operators like Frost, I think what you're getting at with the DLC ops in terms of is this operator going to contribute anything, it's like we've gone from having operators that have like a bear trap. Not a bad concept, right? Like that's something that makes sense in this kind of environment in a tactical shooter. It would make sense for somebody to have like a trap that you could set and forget, and somebody could, incur a very significant penalty for not paying. That's the whole thing about trap operators, right? Is that they're not supposed to work. They rely on the opponent making a mistake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Just like anything else in the game. Winning or losing is dependent on making mistakes, but a trap operator is a much more binary example of that. Buck is a dude with a shotgun that can blow up soft cover. We've gone from that to somebody who can make a giant replica of themselves that can run around the map, and then you can get out of it early, maybe if you want to. I don't know if you want to. You probably should, because the cooldown is a little bit shorter if you get out of it rather than when it gets shot out. Oh, it can also get jammed by this, and this, and blah, 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 blah. It has all these counters. Like, there's more stuff that's being added to the game that is like trying to iterate off of the already existing engine that you have. Like, usually you'll have an operator come out nowadays, and you can more or less predict like what's coming next, because we've been playing the game for 5 years and we've seen all the operators that have been added, and we kind of know the limitations of the engine right now. When Mira got first added to the game, Mira was a really, really big deal because there wasn't really another operator like her on the table. She offered something that was very unique to the game in the sense of like having the whole like bulletproof like looking glass kind of concept. And then they took the bulletproof glass mechanic and they've applied it to like a million other different concepts in the game, like bulletproof cameras, like Echo's, Maestro's Evil Eye. There's
the whole new deployable shield system by itself is a thing now.
Yeah. The whole mechanic of getting launched by the big guy in the zombie mode. They added to Oryx's little dash ability.
Right. Yeah.
We're getting to a point where like we're adding so much stuff to the game that we're taking concepts where it's like, okay, we have a very defender-sided meta. Well, what could we do with it? Well, we could have. I had an idea for this that was like an explosive trail, like a little drone that could not. The first idea I had based off of the game's existing mechanics was like a drone, like an RC car from Black Ops. Right, not like a frag grenade that could like kill everybody, right? Because that'd be overpowered as hell. But just like a RC car with like an impact grenade on it that could go really fast and go into the site and maybe like quote snipe an important piece of defender utility, and maybe Mozzie could catch it and then use it for himself. That's an example of something that's based off of the game's currently existing mechanics. That's something that we know that could be implemented if we wanted to. If we wanted to port the game to a different engine and then do something a little bit more complicated to solve these kinds of problems, that would be, a little bit more balanced maybe. We could have a drone that like leaves like a little explosive trail, kind of like a TNT trail that goes in. I'm just spitballing. I don't know if this would actually work.
No. I mean, it's like
go into the site, and then it leaves a delay. It has a sound cue that allows defenders to adjust their plan before this explosive trail goes into the site and then blows up the piece of utility. So it gives them a little bit of time to kind of adjust to what's happening. That's a really what I just said. If there's any Ubisoft software engineers listening to this, picture steam already coming out of their ears, right? Like, I have no idea how the hell they'd even be able to do that. I don't think
this is already stupid.
Yeah, it's like, it's one thing to have a concept in the game that you're looking at, okay, how do we balance the game? That's already complicated. What's another complicated step is trying to work with this dated engine that we're using right now. And I don't know where it's going to go, if we keep adding as many operators that we are. That's why I'm glad that we're kind of toning down the content rate.
Yeah.
Because the devs are just they've had so much work piled on them from corporate. That's a lot of the issue that I run into, talking about Ubisoft as a team. I've always been very, very open and honest with what I say online. And some people interpret that as me, like, and I'm not coming up here as, like, Gregor's coming on the podcast to defend himself from getting exposed, from saying mean things on Twitter. Like, that's not the point of me coming on, right? But it's like, I'm not coming at the team because I know that I've worked in, like, big company settings like that. I know that the staff is just doing what they're told, right? Like, they get sometimes they have, a little bit more flexibility, but, the corporate system has an idea of what they want to do. They talk to their board. They talk to the people that have shares, and they go, this is what we want to do in Q3, Q4, Q1, whatever. That's what we have with Finka and Lion, because Overwatch had global abilities. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, we need, like, more global abilities because we need the game to appeal to a little bit more people from Overwatch. Is that a good idea? I don't know. Like, no one's gonna know that until the operator comes out, right? And then we had Lion, and then we had the Lion apocalypse. For, like, how long was that? Like 5 months?
That was a long time. They didn't he didn't. It wasn't a quarantine until, like, Paris, so that was a good 6 months from his release all the way up until, like. Yeah, it was bad. And
people still have PTSD. You still bring Lion in ranked, and then people will be like, Lion? Really? Even though he's not really a busted operator anymore. But
not anymore. But you're right. I started playing Siege right in the middle of the apocalypse, and Lion was the first operator I ever bought. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, in his broken state, it just seemed like you would play it. It's the same thing when Maestro came out. I was like, well, get good with Maestro because what he does, like, remember when he had Nidcog? Pepperidge Farm remembers when he had Nidcog.
Remember when he had Hipfire?
That's why everyone would play him, was because of the Hipfire.
My primary ult I bought during Outbreak. And so the only 3 DLC operators I have on my ult are, and I wish I wasn't kidding, Lion, Blackbeard, and Legion.
You are the worst human being I've ever met. Why do I do a podcast with you? I hate this. I hate this so much.
Like, that's how bad the meta was. I had an ult that, like, regularly made it to gold because I would just solo queue.
Currently accepting applications for a new podcast host. Must be at least decently funny and can grow a beard that's a little bit better than mine so that he has something nice that he can talk about on stream. Thank you.
You know what? I'm going fucking... Let's do it. Okay. r6tab.com.
You're on 6tab.
Jacob.
Wait, what? Oh, Lord.
Okay, here we go. You ready? Operators. Wow.
Must be cool with me being a Jackal main.
Hey, what's your number 1 operator?
I think it's Jaeger?
Wrong, bitch. It's Jackal.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I am a Jackal Jaeger main. Let's go. Yay.
Pick and ban hit him hard.
Yeah.
Let's see. How much of a team player is this man? Well, I'll tell you what. His top 3 attackers are Jackal, Ash, and Glaz.
Okay, I can explain. The Ash and Glaz both came prior to their nerfs, at which point Zofia skyrocketed, and that's about it.
I was a Glaz main year 1, season 1.
I mean,
everyone was a Glaz main year 1, season 1.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Trust me,
when we were doing that house custom and they were in kid's bedroom, I was just like, oh yeah, it's rewind time.
Yeah.
It's like
we're about to bust out a lot of old strats now.
It could be so much worse because my top 3 operators, attackers.
You R6 tab yourself?
I don't like my R6 tab.
Say it out loud.
I don't like when
Or
people
my
talk
Blackbeard Hibana.
You have two not terrible
You have
operators
two hard
there.
breachers. Yeah.
And then you have Blackbeard.
Why is Blackbeard number
How did that
2?
happen?
Well, it's really quite simple. I played a lot of Dustline.
Oh my god. Oh no.
I think I understand.
I don't.
Jacob wasn't around for Dustline Blackbeard.
I wasn't. No. But that was one shield? And it was the most
health.
OP thing? Yeah, that's right.
800 health. And those were moments. There were moments like that back then when operators like that would come out, and I'd just be like, who thought this was a good idea?
I'd just get on a window and win the site.
Who came up with this? Like, I'm glad we're not there. I'd rather have more kind of bad operators than a whole bunch of like really busted ones.
God, I'm glad we're getting like meh operators these days, like Callie. Callie's just kind of eh. And I'm very happy with that.
That doesn't help out the gadgetry problem because we're getting so many good defense. We're getting the defenders are amazing.
Exactly.
The attackers are butt.
Who do you have? Who do you have on attack that can deal with the gadget soak? Zoe,
Nobody.
Ash,
Anybody with
Fuse.
flashes.
Fuse isn't the answer. The answer's Monty. But
basically,
we need more mod. Can we get more shield play to combat this current gadgetry meta?
I want
and just
Fuse.
bust into
I want
sight?
Fuse to be able to yeet his thing, and maybe not make it as adjust the explosives, like rework the way.
If you could throw it. Oh fuck! If you could throw it at a window rather than need to be present on the window for it to. Oh fuck. That'd be cool.
Maybe like kind of copy over the way that Wamai throws his discs around, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
You could copy that mechanic over and just you wouldn't have to like do too much with that. And don't make it the same amount of like 5 hockey pucks that just go out and just obliterate the whole building, you know, because that would just be OP. But maybe make it like throw out a couple and then have like a large blast radius so that it could like take up more defender utility. Maybe, I don't know.
Have it do like 3 pucks instead of 5. Lower the amount of damage each one of them does, but maybe give it more of an area of effect damage sort of thing. Also, so you could use it more as a thing to use for vertical play. So you could open up the floor and maybe play from below as opposed to it solely being something you'd use for damage to the other team.
That's
also
another,
make him
that's
a 2-speed
avenue because like we have Buck, right? Who his like main thing, like you look at like Broder on Armory, he can go below into vents and then get rid of the bandit boxes from there. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could have Fuse be an alternative to that instead. You know, you can. I'd like to have more alternatives to like certain kinds of operators rather than try to like add someone new that can like completely reinvent the wheel. Like we tried to do that with Callie and that didn't really work out. And the only reason it didn't work out too much is because the gadget can be tricked very easily, and her gun is like, unless you have like
so bad
virtue aim, you're not going to be able to do anything with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they gave her a different kind of primary attacking rifle, like maybe give her like a 5.56 or something, or like a C7E.
Yeah.
You know, just give her a whole different gun. But then, you know, that gets into the whole debate of like, well, he designed to be this, and we can't do anything different. And it's like, you gotta do something. I mean,
yeah.
It's like, because right now we have Thatcher. Thatcher got banned. Okay. Maverick, throw a grenade. That's it. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing to just have, you know, the rock, paper, scissors game and just leave it at that. But if you're going to keep adding content, why not try to make different kinds of team comps? We're already doing that with Jaeger and Wamai right now. We're already adding Wamai to the game because one thing that Wamai can do, and this is something I've been kind of wanting to do a video on for a while, doing a lot of more analyst-based work because God knows I'm not going to be getting on a team at this rate. After 5 years of Hardstuck Plat 3. But Wamai can do something very different than Jaeger. He's a Capital counter. And what kind of sites are Capital really important on? Well, the yellow stairs take on Consulate, you pretty much need a Capital for that to get rid of the guy on yellow stairs. Now we have an operator that can just throw a disc up at the top of the staircase, and if you throw 2 or 3 up there, you're pretty much good. Unless Thatcher throws a grenade up at the top there, and then they get intel on it, and then they get rid of it. But there's a trade-off to it, right? You have to get the intel on that gadget first.
Right, yeah. It's not all if this, then this with Wamai.
And then you can protect the intel, you can protect the idea of it, like, okay, where are they going to put the discs? Well, we don't really know. We already see, in the reveal phase in competitive, you can see that. And ranked, you can't see that, unless they get spotted with the drone. And frankly, if you're using your drone in ranked, even if you are using it in ranked, to just go in and just like, okay, let's scan the thing, there's a question mark up at the top of the screen.
Who is that?
We need to know who it is. It's like if you're just sending your drone in to just get shot in the bomb site, that's like, stop doing that. Because I guarantee you're going to win more rounds if you use them properly and you set them up to look at defender rotates. That's why Chalet is such a frustrating map to play on, because Chalet, as a map that's, quote, designed for roaming, has a giant balcony on it that can see rotates from the entire half side of the map. So, I don't know what the hell they're going to do with Chalet in the rework.
It better be good.
To be fair,
I'm giving Chalet about 3 chances to get it right. I'm playing on that thing 3 times, and if I don't think it has potential, I am quitting every game on it.
I'm getting really tired of map reworks that suck.
Cafe was fine.
I'm getting really sick.
Cafe was good. Oregon was good. Clubhouse was good.
Canal was not. I liked Canal for like a week, and then after a while I was like, oh no.
Hereford is the worst.
Oh no.
Hereford has about 5% of old Hereford stuck in it.
Hereford can... I just delete it. Worst... I haven't had a single pleasurable experience on that map.
Just make the ranked map pool the Pro League map pool.
Just the Pro League map pool. Just those 7.
That's it.
And Oregon, because New Oregon's worth it.
No.
Why not?
Oh.
But I like
the second you compromise. The second you compromise.
Okay. Chatterhead's right.
Okay.
If we add in New Oregon, what else are we gonna have to add in?
He's right. I like Bank, but if we're gonna go off of that rule,
if we're not gonna do it,
Bank
then just learn
it.
I fucking love Skyscraper. I'm not gonna sit here and argue it should be in goddamn pro, like, competitive play.
Not in its current state.
Oh.
There's this really weird...
It's getting the rework, too.
There's this really weird disconnect, and something's gonna have to be done about it eventually. I don't know what needs to be done. I think it's just gonna have to take a little bit of effort from the UB devs to promote the idea of it, like, hey, the competitive end of the game is like this is the part that drives me absolutely crazy when I talk about it with a lot of my with Twitch chat and in my YouTube videos, because something a lot of people notice when I got, like, if you talk about the YouTube channel in terms of like anime arcs with what I've been doing, you had like the college arc, you had the moving out of my house arc, and then the final semester arc of me coming back, and then I've been able to actually do it full time. I've never been doing it full time until recently, which is kind of, a lot of people are like, huh, what are you talking about? But if you look at the upload schedule, it was literally just like 3 months at a time. I just wasn't doing anything because of exams.
Right.
But when I got back, I had a point and then I lost it. Fuck. What was I going to?
Something you lose your mind when chat talks about it?
Oh, yeah. The whole esports disconnect, where people look at the game and they're like, who cares about the competitive scene? I'm just trying to play. The people who play the game competitive is just completely misrepresentative of the average. Like, they're trying to make it into like an almost
0.1% of the best players in the world. Like, being the only ones who play the game that way, so why should the rest of us play it that way?
They almost trying to make it into like a populism argument, where it's like the average person, the working man, the common man, the gold. This game was made for the golds. And it's like, dude, don't take it personal, dude. It's fine. If the game is healthy competitively, that helps you out too. You know? Like, it makes the game more fun to play. The whole point of it, like, competition in any kind of environment, whether you're talking about it in a war, when you're talking about it in sports, or when you're talking about it in a game, competition in the way that I describe it is usually just a matter of two groups. One of them makes less mistakes than the other group. If the game isn't competitively viable, then that means that there are a whole bunch of variables that are being thrown into the mix that don't make the outcome fair, that don't make the win earned, and they don't make the loss fair to the person who took the loss. If everybody earned their W's and their L's equally, with no bias attached, how is that a bad thing? How is that a bad thing for the game's health? I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm. It's not that it isn't a bad thing. It's just that so many people don't want to wake up to it because they think changing a game to fit more of a competitive meta means completely shifting up the way that it's played. So they're scared that the game that they know is going to change so much. It's not that drastic. Yeah.
Keeping this game balanced is not easy, but it's also not nearly as hard as I think people are making it out to be. It's
not going to be a complete rework of everything that they know about Siege.
Right.
Because if it was, then it wouldn't even be playable in its current state and there wouldn't be a pro scene for it. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely like tone it back if you're one of the people concerned that the way you play ranked or casual is going to not exist if we were to make changes to allow the pros to be happier, or for like there to be a very clear high upper echelon of peak gameplay that this game has, which to some extent it already does, but the way that the people who play it professionally play it is something that they themselves already state they hate doing. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have the option of running, what did we talk about last week? The original Vitality 20-second strat, spend 2 minutes clearing utility, sit close to the site for 30 seconds, push with your last 20 seconds, and then see whether or not you win the round. Now it's you're clearing for 2 minutes, 45 seconds, and you don't have that flexible option to you anymore. So it's just a matter of all the things that they've added up until now to finally reach this point of, well, you know what? I don't want the game to change, so we'll just run around and frag everything, which we already know isn't the way Siege was meant to be consumed as an FPS. Because gunplay makes up about half of it.
It should be about 50-50.
Yeah.
And I bring it back to YouTube channel, which was the actual point that I was trying to make before my brain shut off. I'm running on pretty low amounts of sleep right now.
You're good.
But when I got further and further into the game, like, you can tell kind of looking at the early stages of the channel, like, I was just sort of like, okay, this blew up. That's kind of cool. I'm making money off of it. I guess I'll just keep fucking making videos. Okay. I don't care. Yeah. And then eventually, as I got more and more into the game, I was like, you know, I kind of want to make sure that I'm not like BSing my audience, you know? I want to make sure that I'm actually like backing up what I'm saying here with these guides. And the first thing that I went to was the competitive side of the game, because that's the most authentic source of information that you're going to get on terms of like, how is this operator being played? How to play this operator properly. And I would give like, you can do that without necessarily being at a high rank. You can look at a player on a soccer field or a football field and go, oh yeah, this guy is doing something different that this other guy is doing. So it helps everybody. It helps the esports scene expand and grow. It helps the game make more money. It helps the players make more money. It helps people like me who make content for the game make more money, because the esports scene is Siege would have been like, and I keep telling people this, Siege would have went like, it had the whole appeal we were talking about at the beginning of the show among like the milsim kind of tactical response kind of police community, and then it went, and it was it was this close. It was this close to just going, poof, and then, you know, Ubisoft moving on to a different project. When they started flooding money into the competitive scene, when they started focusing as much on ESL as much as they possibly could and trying to make it into like a CSGO competitor, that's when the uptick started to happen. Mm-hmm. So if you do something that drives people away from the game from a competitive sense, you're going to drive the player base down. And that's not good for anybody involved in this situation.
Well, we pulled it full circle, and we had yet another episode where we were talking mostly about how the meta for this entire game is going to be the thing that ruins it or drives it back into the ground. We talked about it with Sternab last week. Now we talked about it with Gregor. Is that it?
I'm good. We've been going at it for a while, haven't we?
It's been like 2 hours. Yeah, that's the longest
episode
one we've done so far.
Longest show we've had, yeah.
Oh boy.
Gregor, the floor is yours to plug anything you want.
Anything you want.
I stream Monday through Friday at about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/young_Gregor. I'm going to be streaming tonight again after this. Clash How To, Fuse How To. It's going to be coming very soon, within the month. And then we're going to be doing a redo of the big How to Play Every Operator guide. That's going to be attackers first and then defenders in the second part. And then we're about to hit 250k subs, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's a $250,000.
Congratulations. You're quarter of a way to another play button.
Yeah, thank you.
Where's the other one, by the way? I don't know if I've ever seen your 100k one.
Should be up here.
This is, by the way, is what I aspire to reach at some point. I'm not even a quarter of the way here myself, but we're getting close.
And you can tell that I was a Maestro main when I got it.
Is that hammered in there
and whatnot from another company that I've been working with for a while? But yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is one of the older ones. This one still has the
yeah, that's when they actually gave you a button within it rather than the one that's like the hollowed out version that they give everybody now. Mm-hmm. So that's a classic version.
Didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Yep. It's fallen off of my my wall a couple of times because the sticky tape wasn't exactly the highest quality, but
it came with sticky tape.
Oh, I just got like command strips.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had to buy your own.
You can see like here on the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but they wear out after a while. Naturally.
Nice. One day, man. Hopefully, I'll get there.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see.
I've been doing it full time for a while now. Pretty much ever since I got my degree. I tried to get a big boy job when I came out. Had everything all lined up. I was like, okay, screw YouTube, I'm out. And then it didn't work out. And then I was like, oh, well, I don't want to work at Buffalo Wild Wings. So I'll just keep doing this. And
it's a good thing you didn't work at Buffalo Wild Wings.
It is a good thing I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be in the situation I'm in. So.
Oh yeah.
Sweet. Well, hey, thanks for wasting 2 hours with us, brother. This was a lot of fun. Like having this kind of discussion is why the podcast is here. So.
Oh, I had a great time. We talked about everything in and out of Siege and some stuff not even Siege related. Mm-hmm. So it's good that
I'm probably gonna have to put a time code in it and go, hey, this is where Gregor stops talking about the frat bus story, and now we actually talk about Siege for the other hour and a half.
We'll just put like at the start. Hello, everybody. This episode of the Hammered Podcast features a 20-minute discussion on vomiting in a Greyhound bus bathroom. We figure you should know this, just in case you or a loved one is listening to this. We will inform you when the conversation turns.
We will
to the
unblur the screen when it's time for you to watch the actual Siege part of the podcast.
All good.
We would just like to thank you for bearing with us as Gregor goes through the specifics on what it feels like to be violently motion sick on the back of a bus made before any of us were born.
Oh my god.
I had a lot of fun,
I guess the last thing I think I'll say is I did check. I went through the process. We are now on Spotify as of last week, and as of last night,
yeah.
We are now on Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere. Yay. We got it on every major platform. It's a thing.
Stonks.
Congrats to Candor for coming through with the higher res graphics that we needed for like it's a 1400 by 1400 like image HD, not the stupid like low quality Twitter one that we got. He came through. Better updated versions of graphics. Everything is online. Go find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Candor. Right now. Shout out to Candor, who we will continue to sing his praises until the end of this game, probably just because of what he does.
Oh yeah.
And we will actually pay him for that now because we got the quote. So thank you, Candor. Thank you, everyone at Podbean, for helping me figure this stuff out. And thank you for listening to this episode of Hammered. We did it.
Deuces.
We did it.
You had to end it with the deuces, didn't you?
I did have to end it with the deuces.